This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Ministry of Health and Wellness says it has begun the sensitization of key stakeholders and has ramped up operational readiness for the novel coronavirus. Coronaviruses are a large family of viruses known to cause illness, ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases such as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome and Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. This coronavirus, COV, is a new strain of a coronavirus that has not been previously identified in humans. Common signs include respiratory symptoms, fever, cough, shortness of breath, and breathing difficulties. More severe infections can cause pneumonia, kidney failure, and even death. Any suspected case of this novel coronavirus, whether identified at the island's ports of entry or health facilities, will trigger a cascade of activities including notification of the various levels of the health system and preparation of receiving facilities, as well as mobilization of required resources. The Senate has voted for the amendment to the General Consumption Tax Act. The bill was piloted in the House by Leader of Government Business in the Senate, Kamina Johnson-Smith. Last year, Minister of Finance and Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, announced in his budget presentation the GCT amendments.
One of the revenue measures, part of the 2019-2020 fiscal year revenue measures, the government increased the GCT threshold from $3 million to $10 million. The last time the threshold was increased was in the fiscal year 2009-2010. Mr. President, the measure has meant that small businesses can spend less time on administration and focus more energies on growing their companies. The measure has also, of course, been working together with the government's removal of the minimum business tax to ease the burden on small businesses and to give them more space to grow.
Senator Johnson-Smith said considerations were given to those that fall below the tax threshold.
Consideration was given to those persons who fall below the new threshold, but who opt to remain registered as taxpayers. And they may do so because these persons will have the benefit of being able to claim a tax credit or a refund of GCT paid on goods or services purchased for their businesses. So there's although it might be, one might want to think that you would immediately take advantage of a deregistration. Depending on the structure of your company and the type of operations you have, it may actually suit you to register voluntarily and to have the benefit of a tax credit or refund on GCT. Mr. President, it really does bear emphasis that the government policy of increasing the threshold has the positive effect of aiding and stimulating the micro and small business sectors of the economy. And in that regard, cost savings should occur to the sector as companies operating at the lower end of the revenue threshold will not be obliged to undertake all that is entailed with registration and filing of GCT returns.
GCT amendment is part of the government's initiative to reduce costs for small and micro businesses and to encourage small business formation, among other objectives. Prime Minister Andrew Holness recently addressed civil servants at the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation annual General Staff meeting. He said, given Jamaica's sensitive economic state, it can't be business as usual.
The top leadership of the public service, the civil service, the public bureaucracy is always committed. You're always committed to doing your job. But what we need now is a commitment to go beyond, to work faster, to produce more, even if it is not your job. The old system, which is I work to the rule of my job, will not get us the economic growth that we desire. Will not.
He challenged the staff to play their role in keeping the country afloat.
Now, the challenge of growth is to be able to use your natural resources. And the natural resources are not merely bauxite or our climate, it is also our people. And in fact, our people are our greatest natural resource. And we have to use that natural resource to create assets, whether it is infrastructure or intellectual property. And then to consistently add value to those assets, again, using our natural resources. Have we been doing that? Not consistently.
The Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology has completed the Electronic Mobility Strategic Framework, which will inform the electric vehicle policy for the public transportation sector. Principal Director in the Ministry, Fitzroy Vidal, made the disclosure at a roundtable discussion on electric mobility in Jamaica held at the Montego Bay Conference Center in St. James last Friday. He noted that Cabinet, in 2018, mandated the ministry to develop an electric vehicle policy in partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, and other key stakeholders. He noted the next step in the process is the implementation of the framework, which will materialize in short order. Mr. Vidal said that the Electric Mobility Strategic Framework is intended to determine the adoption targets for the country, perform diagnostic assessments, and develop fiscal strategies to facilitate the introduction and growth of the electric vehicle market. He said that electric mobility will enable a sustainable, efficient, and diversified energy sector and provide affordable and accessible energy supplies to Jamaicans. Mr. Vidal said further that the government is taking steps to bridge the knowledge and information gaps surrounding electric mobility adoption in Jamaica. The roundtable discussion on electric mobility in Jamaica was held ahead of the 4th Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas ministerial meeting slated for February in Montego Bay. Most unusual. That's how Prime Minister Andrew Holness described the use of non-disclosure agreements at the Caribbean Maritime University, the CMU. Sections of the media have reported that agreements were signed by the council members after meeting for the first time in 8 months. Mr. Holness was also asked for his reaction to the news while at a press conference at Jamaica House on Sunday.
Like all Jamaicans, I was shocked that non-disclosure agreements could be used for boards. And that is something that we will have to look into very seriously. That is most unusual. And I would have to, of course, take advice as to whether or not that is permissible. And I will be doing so on Monday. This will definitely be a matter that will be raised in the Cabinet.
In an interview with the Jamaica Gleaner, Permanent Secretary of the Education Ministry, Dr. Grace McLean, said the agreement forms part of the governance structure. She said it is included in a framework checklist the ministry introduced during the legislative year, along with a declaration of interest form. The Prime Minister was also asked if he had knowledge of the content of the Auditor General's report on operations at the CMU before its tabling.
I was aware of a draft report sometime in August, but I was never given access or sight of the report. And indeed, I still, up to a few days ago, a week ago or so, I would not have had the physical report in my possession. There was an embargo placed on it, and the Permanent Secretary faithfully kept the embargo.
The government will not be abandoning its use of states of public emergencies to help curb crime. That's the declaration from Prime Minister Andrew Holness as he announced the SOE for the Eastern Kingston Police Division. Mr. Holness said the SOEs form part of the government's overall crime plan.
It is one thing that the country will know, is that this Prime Minister and this administration will stick to the plan. Because any deviation at this point in time, except for improving the plan, and we are always open to suggestions, we are always open to bringing on board more persons and ideas. But to go and abandon our strategy would only set us back another 10 or so years. We have gone 4 years into the plan, and you are seeing the improvements.
Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson said the state of emergency in East Kingston became necessary owing to a sharp increase of violence and gang warfare.
The high level of violent crime being experienced within the boundaries of the Kingston Eastern Division in the parish of Kingston in the latter part of last year and since the start of this year is at a scale and of a nature such that it greatly endangers public safety. Eastern Kingston has persistently been one of the country's crime hotspots, with several gangs engaged in deadly inter- and intra-gang conflicts or other criminal enterprise. Today, there are currently 32 criminal gangs, with over 16 now actively engaged in various violent conflicts in the division. There are 33 wanted persons and another 34 violence influencers within the division. During 2019, Kingston Eastern recorded a concerning increase in violent crimes, especially shootings when compared with 2018.
National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang gave the assurance that the rights of citizens within the division will be protected under the SOE.
The nature of these incidents demands extraordinary measures to stop the killings. Indeed, only in the last 24 hours, a teacher was killed at Vauxhall in what was reflecting the character of the gang warfare in this particular community. The areas involved, extending from Upper Mountain View to Rockfoot and along the coastline, continue to have serious increase in murders and homicides. The government is therefore obligated to take strong steps to protect the lives of the law-abiding citizens. We appreciate the impact of the restriction on the law-abiding citizens, but these are necessary steps to protect them from the murderous minority that exists in the community.
They were speaking at a press briefing at Jamaica House on Sunday. Minister with responsibility for the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Carl Samuda, has condemned the killing of 36-year-old Carl Samuels, a teacher at the Vauxhall High School in East Kingston. Samuels was reportedly attacked by 2 gunmen on Saturday evening as he gathered material from his car and was in the process of closing the school compound. The teacher, who was reported to be a licensed firearm holder, managed to take out one of his attackers. He, however, died on the way to hospital. He was the husband of one of the vice principals at the school. Samuda is appealing for eyewitnesses to share any information they may have that could help the police in their investigation of the killing. Minister Samuda also extended his condolences to the family of Samuels and the Vauxhall community, noting that the ministry would continue to provide support through counseling. President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Owen Speed, has declared Monday a day of mourning for slain teachers. His announcement was in reaction to the shooting death of 36-year-old Carl Samuels, a teacher of Vauxhall High School in East Kingston. Samuels' killing has happened amid concern over violence in East Kingston, where a state of emergency was declared Sunday morning. Jamaican entertainer Michaela Coffee Simpson is the first woman to win the Best Reggae Album category at the Grammy Awards with her EP Rapture. Coffee copped the title during the ceremony held at Staples Center in Los Angeles on Sunday. At 19, she's also the youngest artist to win the category since reggae gained Grammy status in 1985. Rapture, which is distributed by Columbia Records, was released last year and heeded the big hit Toast. That song made charts in the United States and United Kingdom and earned the thumbs up from former U.S. President Barack Obama. A past student of Arden High School, Coffee is from Spanish Town. She came out ahead of Third World with More Work to Be Done. As I Am from Julian Marley, Steel Pulse's Mass Manipulation, and The Final Battle, Sly and Robbie versus The Roots Radics. The US dollar on Friday, January 24, ended trading at 140 Jamaican dollars 71 cents, up by 15 cents. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $109.80, up from $107.80. while the British pound sterling ended trading at $182.26, down from $183.37. That data from the Bank of Jamaica's daily exchange trading summary. In regional news, we look to Trinidad and Tobago. As thousands of jobs may be lost, the national gas company NGC goes ahead with its plan to significantly increase natural gas prices to manufacturers. A report from the Trinidad Guardian says that the state enterprise is already demanding that the manufacturing sector pay 13% more for natural gas this year, moving as high as a 100% increase by 2023. According to the report, at present, manufacturers pay between US $2 to US $2.50 per million British thermal unit, MMBTU, and the NGC wants this price to escalate over time to US $4 per MMBTU. The NGC has been embroiled in difficult negotiations with all its customers as it tries to significantly increase prices because of its new deal with the oil and gas majors that have seen significant price increases for the aggregator. The deal, which was brokered by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, means that the NGC has to pass on price hikes to its customers, many of whom they say cannot pay the new prices. This has already led to loss of scores of high-paying jobs and millions of dollars to the Treasury, the closure of an ammonia plant, and the planned shutdown of a methanol plant in a week. The United States plans will take whatever additional measures it deems necessary in support of Venezuela's opposition leader, Juan Guaido. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made the remarks while on a two-day visit to Jamaica last week.
I was with President Guaido on Monday in Colombia. We talked about how much support he has received from his hemisphere. He wanted me to thank all of you in this room today. We are indeed moving towards closer ties. Look, we're not going to ask any of you to take on these challenges alone. The Trump administration is action-oriented. Endless discussion and empty promises won't protect our security, our economies, and our freedom.
Mr. Pompeo called on other countries to cooperate in efforts to remove President Nicolas Maduro from office. Venezuela is a nation in crisis. The economy is in freefall and its politics is riven. Mr. Maduro and Guaido have been at loggerheads over more than a year after Mr. Guaido, who heads the National Assembly, declared himself interim president, claiming Mr. Maduro's re-election in 2018 was fraudulent. Despite international pressure and U.S. sanctions on the crucial oil sector, Mr. Maduro has managed to stay in power, supported by Russia, Cuba, and a handful of other countries, as well as the powerful Venezuelan military. In sports, UWI and Malines United played to a 1-1 draw in their Red Stripe Premier League encounter at the Huey Mona Bowl on Sunday afternoon. The result maintains the Calvert Fitzgerald coach Malines' 7-point distance from the drop zone, moving them to 25 points and keeping them in 10th place. The UWI remain in 11th place with 18 points. Olympic Gardens are the JFF Women's Knockout Champions after stunning two-time defending champions Waterhouse 4-2 in penalties at the Captain Horace Burrell Center of Excellence at the Huey Mona campus. The teams had played out a 2-2 draw after full and extra time. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thank you so much for watching.